I'm sitting in my home office and realized it's time for a refresh. And who better to turn to than AI? And so what we are going to do today is see what AI can do with this image. This is the room that I'm actually sitting in right now. And I evaluated multiple AI apps and came to the conclusion that number one, interior designers, don't freak out. You still have a job. And two, there is one thing that all of these AI apps around interior design, but my hunch is all AI apps in general could start to do that would dramatically improve how people engage with, use, and retain in their apps. And we'll go through what exactly that is. But first, we are going to go through the AI apps and then get to the unifying thing that they could all do better. Interestingly enough, most of them have the same input field. So they all ask you what room you want to redesign. They give you some level of degrees of freedom to change the mode. They're asking you a style. And by the way, we're all putting modern for all of these. And privacy. Interior AI, this is what it came back with. And it is unimpressive. These rooms don't actually look like the room that I uploaded. This one may be the closest to something that's semi-inspiring, but still feels pretty off from what is actually my design. We'll head to Archi. Archi, do you know what modern is? I'm not a designer, but I don't think this is that modern. And they're pretty similar. The one that was the closest was this Homedesigns, which is very nice. I uploaded something and it came back and showed me kind of a fun, interesting take. Now, there is no desk, so maybe they're just saying, hey, it's not an office. But some level of, I could imagine taking some design cues from this. But the unifying problem in all three of these is this is it. They're just giving me some output, and now it's on me to go and kind of imagine the changes that I would have to do in order to make, this a real design. And that is surprising, number one, that all three of these apps spent a ton of time building, coding, designing, launching all of these features, and they're giving me something that is so far away from what someone could actually reasonably do. So with this, the opportunity here, and I would say for all kind of generative AI apps, is to add back in some level of user agency. Sometimes we call this idea internal versus external locus of control. In an external locus of control, it's a lot like religion, where you think somebody else is controlling your destiny. Internal locus of control is much more like I have some power over what will happen next. I can control the dials and node. There was a nice study done with lottery tickets, which basically said, look, I'm going to give half of the people a lottery ticket, and I'm going to give the other half a choice of which lottery ticket they want. And then in kind of classic endowment type studies, we're saying, oh, just kidding. Like, do you want to sell that lottery ticket back to me? How much would you sell it back to me for? And so one case, I gave them the lottery ticket. In another case, they got to choose their lottery ticket. And lo and behold, if you got to choose your lottery ticket, you sold it back to me for more. Which is funny because in both cases, the chance of the lottery ticket is worth the same. Lotteries are random by definition. And so there's no reason for you choosing to have any effect on how much you value it. And yet it turns out that we do. And so for these generative AI apps, how do we add more internal locus of control? Whereas if I wanted to turn this rug white, if I wanted to move the furniture around, that is something that, maybe it's not generative AI that helps me with that, but maybe this is just a general level of, a design intervention. And, the current interior design apps, this is Spoke, seem to have figured some of this out, except they're going way too far, right? Most of these apps, the real interior design apps that have probably been out, for years, make me, and I was playing with this for 45 minutes, kind of mess around and become an interior designer with measurements and just like how big is the door? I don't know. And so, our current world is asking too much of users. Generative AI may, at least in the world that we're in for the current state of technology, be delivering in a way that's magical and easy, but just doesn't provide the value and or the perception of value that the user is going to have because, again, they haven't contributed to the real, the output. So I may be worried about a copy editor's job. I may be worried about a radiologist's job. I may be worried about, your general kind of like marketing, but definitely not worried about interior designers yet. It seems like these apps have a little bit to go before we should worry.